Today we have the great honor and privilege of being again as part of a continuing conversation with the Earth human representative of a reported Galactic Governance Council known as the Andromeda Council, which is a Galactic Governance Council reportedly composed of various star systems, and one of the membership in the council is of the Galactic Federation of our own galaxy. And welcome, Tolec.
Alfred, good afternoon. Good to catch up with you again.
Well, you know, in this conversation, we're going to be talking about the molecular and cellular transformation of Earth life, our 3D Earth life, leading to a fourth dimensional Earth life. But I understand that you wanted to share something before we started on a personal note.
Certainly, please. I'd like to briefly share with you an experience I had over this weekend, and it's a short story. I was lucky enough, blessed actually, to watch a remote live telecast of an Awake and Aware conference that was held in Southern California this weekend. There were many top speakers there, including retired Command Sergeant Major Robert O'Dean. Robert's certainly an elder statesman who's very well respected among his peers. And I was listening closely to what he had to say, and about halfway through his talk, Bob said the following. Now, I'm going to paraphrase him, but I believe I'll be very close to what he said to the live audience. Quote, "You people have no idea how much help you have. They, our ET friends, are watching us very closely, watching what's going on down here." And he points up toward the sky and continues to say, "I know about 11 or 12 of them." He continues to say, "Please understand, you people have some very good friends in very high places, and this includes the Galactic Federation." Now, Alfred, keep in mind, the Galactic Federation, as you stated, is a senior member of the Andromeda Council, and there are 12 formal members. So remember that number. Now, Bob goes on to say to the live audience, "Remember, you have some friends that care about you very much. At least 11 or 12 of them." And again, he points upward toward the sky with his index finger, and he holds it there for about 3 or 4 seconds. He closes by saying, "I don't think I'll still be here with you when it happens, but you are in for some very big changes, an amazing ride, and an amazing transformation." Unquote. Now, keep in mind, Bob is in his 80s. I was watching him speak, and he's feeling, he's feeling his age. He's feeling tired. I've been to at least a number of speaking engagements where he's talked over the years, since about 1993. And personally, I just spoke with him last month, though I've not yet shared with him any of what I've experienced or learned from the Andromeda Council in the past year. And I think it's more important to note that this whole story is about the fact that I've never ever heard him say any of those things before in front of a live audience. Alfred, knowing what you and I have discussed, to me, Bob spoke volumes. At least for me, there are a lot of pointed synchronicities there. But I'll let you, and I'll let everybody else listening, draw your own conclusions.
Well, that's very, very remarkable. The last time I saw Bob Dean, he and I spoke together at an EXOPOLITICS conference that was held by EXOPOLITICS Mexico in Tijuana in the fall of 2010. And I know exactly what you mean in terms of Bob Dean being very connected to the galactic governance presence. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And
I know that he's just by the person that he is, he's a very warm, loving person.
He is.
And he's always very warm and loving and congenial when he speaks with the audience.
Exactly.
But I also know that what he says, I believe that, and this is my belief, I believe that what he says and when he says it is something that he considers very deeply. So I think if I can make any point of this is, I think it's highly interesting that he uttered these words at this moment in time.
Right.
At least that's what's pointed for me, especially since he and I haven't had a conversation about any things that I've shared with you.
Right.
We just haven't had that conversation. So it was just one of those aha moments for me.
Exactly.
So that was my story and my comment. I'm ready for whatever questions you have for me.
Yeah, sure. Well, in this interview and in the accompanying article, what we're going to do is, as you mentioned, to cover the process of the Earth's transformation to a fourth dimensional Earth life. And what you have stated in terms of what your Andromeda Council contacts have told you is that the Earth is now in a process of transformation through dimensional shift. So first off, you have been saying that a number of the different people of the Andromeda Council that you communicate with are really excited about our solar system and our planet's migration into the fourth dimension. Why are they excited about this change that we're about to experience?
Sure. Very good question. First of all, and I want to preface the answer with one statement. First of all, please understand the original 5,000 crew members, which are now 50,000 crew members and their families, at least on this one biosphere, and on other biospheres, they've traveled a long way to get here to help Earth with this coming shift. Yes, they're excited to be here and to be of help, but up until recently, it's been really challenging for them. It's been a very difficult time because they first had to win a very hard war in space against an alliance of Orion Greys, Hydra and Alpha Draconis reptilians, which they've done. They've won this war out in space. And now the affiliated planets of the Andromeda Council are in the cleanup process down here on Earth, especially those people from Procyon who have used highly focused sonic energy beams to bust up and collapse underground bases, including the ones around our nation's capital, leading up to the hills of Virginia, the ones in Colorado, and those certainly in northern New Mexico. Now, keep in mind, these were highly focused, pinpointed sonic energy beam blasts meant to cripple the tunnel systems and underground bases where the Greys and reptilians have been hiding. They had been warned many, many times to leave and didn't. So a positive intervention was held. And my contacts call these tunnels and bases a lattice network. So now they're destroyed, collapsed, and inoperable, and closed off. There's been a lot of talk about this subject, and I'm speaking deliberately because I want to bring clarity to this subject. The main contact that I have in the Andromeda Council, I'm going to quote him now. He says, "These were not nuclear blasts. We would never use nuclear weapons. We don't need to. We are far beyond this kind of technology. Moreover, use of nuclear weapons would absolutely endanger the lives of the people on the planet's surface. And even worse, nuclear radiation is poisonous to all humans, to all life on Earth. These were not nuclear weapons, but rather highly focused, pinpointed sonic energy beam blasts. Unquote.
Sorry. Right. Could I just jump in for a brief comment? And
Sure.
I know that there's a lot of information that you would like to impart, but I think it's important for me just to provide a footnote here.
Please,
and that
please
is in terms of comparing the information that you just shared with the analysis that is occurring here among 3D science people. And that is that just today, September 27, 2011, Sterling Allen, who is the director of the New Energy Congress, released a fairly in-depth analysis in which he concluded that the signature of the, quote, August 23, 2001 earthquakes, one in Virginia, one in Denver, was in fact a nuclear blast. On the other side of the coin, conversations that I've had with an independent scientist who is a nuclear expert, as well as an expert on frequency weapons such as HAARP, has stated that the signature of those earthquakes do not resemble the signature of the use of nuclear weapons, but rather more of frequency weapons such as HAARP. That would mean that it would be a signature more along the sonic energy beams area that you mentioned. But I just want the listeners to know that they're fairly expert analysts who are coming out on various sides of this issue. Now, having said that, please excuse my interruption and you can continue.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem at all. I'm going to wrap up the at least this expose, if you will, on the remaining greys and reptilians and the cleanup. It's the Andromeda Council's goal to eliminate as many of these remaining, I like to call them rats under the woodpile, as soon as possible, before this solar system, this planet's migration and complete immersion into fourth dimensional space is complete. They want to get rid of many as possible off the planet. And they said to me before, they're about 90 to 92% complete in wrapping up this cleanup phase of the last gray and reptilian holdouts here on Earth. So I want to actually get back to the actual question, which is, why are they excited about this shift? This is a very unique answer, but it's worth exploring. Comparatively, this coming shift is it's nothing like anyone has experienced in a long, long time. There's a lot of things happening in this solar system all at once, which they're paying very close attention to. And this transformation that we're about to experience is totally different because this solar system, this planet, and all its people get to become fourth dimensional human beings without having to die. Now, I want to explain this and be very clear about what this means. As an example, from time immemorial, all of us normal humans on 3D planets like Earth and others, we get to live long or short lives to have whatever learning experiences that are best needed for our souls. And when we die, rather, when our bodies die, these physical bodies, our original birth spiritual essence, people call our souls, they usually go off planet for a little while and choose where we are going to incarnate next. We can incarnate on another third-dimensional world like Earth, we can incarnate back on Earth again. This touches on the whole topic of reincarnation and people having many lives. If in the process of decision-making they feel that they've really learned as much as they can over the course of many 3D lifetimes, they can choose instead to migrate and live their lives in the fourth dimension, and if you will, move up, on any number of 4D worlds. Or they can go back to their original 4D homeworld, which is the place of their original spiritual birth essence. As has been told a few times, this is the norm. Why is this relevant? Well, in the case of this upcoming shift and this transformation, nobody's third-dimensional body, if I were to stand in a street corner and look at you, Alfred, and the final parts of the transformation wave were to happen, we're still going to stand there being living beings. Nobody's third-dimensional body has to die. And I want to make that point clear because a lot of people have asked me about this, and there are a lot of people who are concerned about it. So that's the long answer to that story.
Okay, well, now you've said that in the process of this transformation by dimensional shift, there's a stage at which various representatives from different star systems and planets affiliated with the Andromeda Council are actually coming here to Earth in 3D and will quietly land and visit with us, but at a citizen level. Could you talk more about that and the various sorts of people that
Sure.
you've been told by the Andromeda Council reports
Right.
may be visiting us?
Right. They mentioned this to me months ago, and in preparing for this conversation with you, I said, I better do some homework and find out who these people are, what they're like. So what I did was I took some time, a couple of hours, probably about a week ago, and I asked them specifically about the 4 different races of people that'll be coming down to Earth to visit. These people are from 4 different planets, and I'll first name the planets, and then I'll provide a planet-by-planet description of the people. The planets are Ventra, Nicote, Tolec, and Retal. The people from planet Ventra have, and I'm going to describe them physically. I'm just going to provide.
But these are all in what we would call human form, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah, they are human. Feet, legs, torso, arms, neck, head, ears, nose, eyes. They're human. They're human. They look a little bit different than us, but they're human. So from the top, the people from the planet Ventra, they have white porcelain skin, beautiful emerald green looking eyes, or dark bluish, kind of purplish eyes. They have fine strawberry blonde hair. The women are petite, about 5 feet tall, and their men are about 6 feet to 6'2". Now again, these people have white porcelain looking skin. The people from the planet Nicote, they have light creamy to mid mocha colored skin. They would look very much like a person of mixed Caucasian or African races, from this planet.
Right.
That's their look. And as a matter of fact, these people are in fact of mixed races. Mixed races. Their hair ranges in color from black to brown, all different textures from short and tight to long, curly and flowing. Their eyes are all colors of brown, dark to light, and sometimes the people with the lighter colored brown eyes, they have what you would see as like gold flecks in the colored area of their eye. The women are generally about 6 feet tall. Right. The men are about 6'5" to 6'7". Okay, let's see. The people from planet Tolec, they have pale, beautiful, pale, very light green skin.
Green skin.
With, yeah, light green, right, light green skin, with light blue, almost aquamarine eyes. They have very, very fine hair. I guess on this planet we call it like corn silk. Very fine hair, almost silvery to light blonde. With both men and women, they would consider to have, an average range of Earth human height. So, whether it's 5 feet to 6.5, somewhere in there for both men and women. Here comes the neat part. Their ears are slightly pointed. Yep. Yeah, I started chuckling when I heard that. I said, "So do you mean?" And they're picking up my thoughts, and they said, "Yes, yes, yes. Your own fictional version of Vulcans from your Star Trek television show. Yes, they have pointed ears like Vulcans." And I said, "Okay, right. Do I also have slanted eyebrows?" Like, no, eyebrows just like yours, but pointed ears. Okay, all right. But so, people from Tolec, light green skin, pointed ears. The last group of people are from Retol. The majority of the original people from this planet have light blue skin, like pale blue skin. They have thick, full, white hair, and they have really deep, deep purple eyes. Now, the people from this planet have also intermarried with other races. They've intermarried with some Caucasian-looking people from a planet in the Tau Ceti system called Loki. And as a result, their light blue skin color gets a little lighter. They also have different eye colors because of the intermixing of the races. And their hair is either black or red. And because of the original race, it's full and thick in appearance as well. They've also intermarried with people who we would consider to be Native American looking. And these are people from the planet Dakota. And so, again, because of the mixing of the color, the light blue becomes a little more muted. That's the best way to say it. They've also married people from the planet Nicote, and these are the people who have creamy and mid-mocha colored skin. Now, these are really tall people. All of these people from Retol, the women generally average between 7 to 7 feet 2, and the men are usually between 8 feet to 8 feet 2 tall.
Wow.
The planet, as you've heard, is pretty much a melting pot kind of planet, very much like Earth. And quite honestly, this is the reason why they're sending people from these 4 planets, because just like Earth is a melting pot with all sorts of races and all sorts of colors and mixes, the same thing with these people. Now, I fear for the guys from Retol because the NBA scouts I know are going to come with these guys at 8'2".
Yeah. Now, just for the benefit of our audience, you've prepared a memo which summarizes a lot of this information, and we're going to make available the full text of the memo with the Examiner article. And I'd like to just emphasize for those viewers who are just kind of tuning into this series that Tolec is a 20-year professional in the computer industry, in the marketing and the administration end of things. So he's very much used to preparing memos and taking down information accurately in the computer and IT world. And so that's kind of the standard of care and of research, I think, that is ongoing here. Okay, now, when these people land, do they all speak English?
No, they don't. Because they're going to be. It's a long answer with a short answer. Because they're going to be landing in the U.S. first, and then they'll be landing in the U.S. first, then Canada, and then other major countries around the globe. There's a list of which countries they'll be visiting and the priority, the order in which they're visiting. But
Okay.
to answer your question, rather than have them try to learn all of the different languages on Earth, and I'm going to borrow a term from Star Trek, they're simply going to be wearing a device that's a universal translator, so that they can, when people, as an example, when people here in the US or in Canada speak English to them, they'll be able to have it translated in their own language, and that translator will translate again whenever they speak. Earth people will hear whatever language that they're used to speaking, whether it's English, French, Spanish, Russian. They're going to be wearing universal translators. That's the short answer.
Now, when exactly is this supposed to happen? We're at, again, September 27th, 2011 today.
Right. I, being an Earth person, I very much appreciate the question having to do with time and the parameters of time. But the best way to answer it is this: they're pretty much on schedule to do this. It's still very likely to happen this autumn. I expect sometime before October is finished, but with this caveat: please don't hold me to this date, because as we are discussing timing events of them visiting, happening around all of these cosmic events that are going on in our solar system, the matter of timing concerning their initial contact tends to be a little more fluid. So therefore, I'd ask everybody, please be a little patient about this particular topic of when. They will arrive at the moment in time that is most appropriate, and I do believe it'll be this autumn, but don't hold me to a fixed date.
Right. Now, but if I could just jump in here.
Sure.
You have talked about it's not kind of a take me to your leader that is interacting directly with governments, from what you've been told, but rather these are kind of coming in and interacting with the people. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. This one's very easy to talk about. Because on a global scale, they, in this case, they being the affiliated the formal members of the Andromeda Council, the star systems and the planets that make up the Andromeda Council, they very much consider us to not only be humans as friends, but to be family. Because many of the races that are today part of the Andromeda Council, they visited this planet years ago. And so, to a great degree, we can be considered their great ad infinitum grandchildren, their nieces, their nephews, their cousins. So we're family, and so because we're family, it's going to be a get-together. It's going to be a reunion of family that haven't seen each other in a while. So that reunion is going to be as informal as possible, and they'll be walking streets and malls and parks, introducing themselves and simply chatting with people, having conversations with people. Moms, dads, kids, families. Very informal.
Yeah. Now, this has prompted just a series of questions in me. If we're dealing with the U.S., number one, the U.S. is very, very security conscious now. I mean, it's like on my visits down to the U.S., it's more security conscious than any other country that I've been to, and slightly paranoid in terms of the law enforcement.
Yes.
And how are they going to do this without the neighborhood watch, the local police, the sheriff's department? I mean, what are they going to do? How is it going to work out in terms of the homeland security mentality that seems to have, that seems to have been part of the mind control of the Orion Gray Draco reptilian occupation, and maybe with the lifting, is that what you're saying?
The best way that I can answer this question is because the nature of their landing, they're going to land very quietly, kind of on the outskirts of town, if you will, using cloaking technology.
Okay, cloaking. Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're going to these again, to borrow Star Trek terms. They are going to cloak their ships so that when they land at night somewhere outside of town, it's going to be a quiet event. They're not here to disrupt society. They're here simply to reintroduce themselves.
Right.
And so, if, as an example, if there is a problem, and they're talking with, Mr. Al and Mary Johnson,
okay,
and their kids, and the family of four happens to be walking through a park on a weekend, and some police happen to be walking by, and they see these 7-foot or 8-foot tall people talking to these humans. These police may wander over and wonder what's going on and start asking some questions. But please understand, these people from these 4 planets have technology that is way beyond what we have. So, again, to borrow from Star Trek metaphor, if they need to blink out or beam out, they can do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because part of the global national security state, especially in the U.S. during the truth embargo, especially for human-looking extraterrestrials, was either capture or shoot on sight. So, that policeman would have received training to instantly report back to the intelligence agencies, and you would have black helicopters there within, with all the men in black. But is that something that is gone now with the victory over the Orion Greys and the Draco reptilians, as reported?
Because I am not in any level of law enforcement, nor do I have any connection to it, or to what people are ubiquitously calling the powers that be.
Right.
Or as they said over this weekend, the powers that were, which everybody chuckled at.
Right.
I loved it.
The powers that
were.
I like
the powers that were. Because I have no connection to that group, I'm not able to comment as to what they're going to do or how they're going to respond. I will say this. Once contact and informal visitation starts, there's going to be a high level of frequency. Earth policing bodies and military won't be able to keep up with the number of extraterrestrial people, humans, that'll be coming in here and visiting with folks. I mean, it's going to be constant, and they're going to go from one city to another city to another city to another state. They're going to be on the move, and it's almost going to be like an old family party where your Uncle Fred and his Aunt Mary and their 27 grandchildren all show up at once.
Grandchildren and great grandchildren. If you can
and great grandchildren. So for them, we are the grandchildren, and they're going to probably show up in craft of 3 or 4 people at once.
Okay.
Again, very low key.
Okay, now, be it low key or not, the landing of an extraterrestrial craft and inhabitants and occupants of the craft on planet Earth is like a story that the mainstream media of Earth for the last 60 years have been wanting and would never print. So I'm talking about the mainstream media now, the one that is controlled by the multinationals and have been carrying out an Illuminati agenda. How, is this going to hit the news, the mainstream news, or not? Or how is that going to play out in terms of media and public information?
Okay. I'm not 9 or 10 years old, so that, and there's a point that I'm going to make here. A kid or 9 or 10, 11 years old today, they were born with the web, almost.
Yeah.
They're on the computer all the time, and therefore, as a reference point, the web and things like email and things like YouTube have become such a pervasive communication medium of, if you will, the people, not the formal media outlets, but of the people, that conversations regarding contact with people from other planets is going to spread like wildfire.
Okay.
So how, think of a dry forest in Western Canada that hasn't seen rain in years, and it's burning like crazy. How do you contain that kind of fire? In this case, how do you contain what people in the web call that kind of viral story? So
right.
I think the small dissertation on my part says, how do you contain a story like this that will surely have a cause and effect on what normal media will or will not report?
But yeah, now, but there again, I just want to emphasize that you're saying that in the end, don't hold you to any timing, because this is the product of many different factors that we may not be aware of. Now, let's kind of jump to this other topic. What exactly is the Andromeda Council and these representatives going to share with us in terms of knowledge that we don't have?
There's a lot that we've been taught as kids in grammar school and high school, certainly in universities, that may not be the whole story. And so it's a really good question. Primarily, we're going to learn about what we as human beings on this planet, what our own true heritage is. What's the truth of our origin, our original human form? Where among the various stars and planets across the universe did Earth people originally come from? Who our cousins, brothers, and sisters are? A lot of these questions will be answered. We'll also learn about the truth and reality of human spiritual origin, the soul, its true essence, the reality and creation of the human soul, and in the context of overall creation. There's a lot more, but that's their job. These 4 planets and the people that will come to visit, that's their job. I'm going to let them get into the details of that.
Okay. Now, let's go back to where we started, and that is in terms of the transformation through dimensional shift that the Andromeda Council representatives have been sharing with you, and that's also many other researchers, both human and interdimensional research, are kind of echoing that theme. First, as to timing. Now you've said that, for example, the timing of the visitations, isn't a fixed time. Now, you've also said that we're now in 2011, and that this process will be complete, rather, say around the end of 2013. Now, is that fixed, or will it happen, say, instead in 2025? I mean, is it fixed that from 2011 to the end of 2013, encompassing that magic date 2012, is when this solar system dimensional upgrade is going to happen? Or is there a fudge factor as to the actual timing of the dimensional shift also?
No, I've asked in the early stages when I was receiving this particular information, as I do with almost every question that I ask. I tend to be a pain, but I ask 3 or 4 times. The answer pretty much came back consistently every time. The beginning of the shift, if you will, is, interestingly enough, right around mid-October.
Okay.
Yeah, mid-October, the end of October. And they say that this is the point in time that we will start to feel the effects of this new area of space that our solar system is moving into, which they call the fourth dimension. Now, as a reference point, I know that some Earth scientists, astrophysicists actually, call this area of space that we're moving into either a galactic or torsion energy wave. And I bring this up because scientists on this planet, astrophysicists, have already recognized that we're heading toward this area of space. And there's going to be a cause and effect when we do that. But again, to get back to your answer, mid to late October, with the process completing itself December 2013. And basically we wake up, I don't know what the day is, but let's call it Monday morning, January 1st, 2014, and we're fourth dimensional people. And
now, when you say we wake up, does that mean that on that day there's going to be a mass realization, oh my God, we're in the fourth dimension? Or is this a gradual thing that's going to happen?
It is definitely going to be a gradual experience. It will occur between mid to late October of this year, 2011, and continue. Because keep in mind, I'll use a metaphor, but let's make believe that the solar system is a plate, and it is literally heading in one direction. It is heading toward an area of space called the galactic equatorial plane, also called the fourth dimension, which is also called the galactic or torsion energy wave. Okay. It's moving in a particular direction. So the closer that it gets to this area of space, the more we in this solar system and the more we on this planet will begin and go through our transformation process.
Right. So let's assume now, by the way, we're about halfway through this segment, and I know that there's a lot of material, but I just wanted to give you that kind of high sign.
Okay.
Let's assume it's January 1st, 2014 in this process. How do we change in terms of our body structures as the new 4D humans? What's different?
Okay. I want to reiterate, and I'm going to take just a moment to say this. When I was addressing this topic a few nights ago and sort of wrapping up all of my preparation work, I was talking to the vice chairwoman of the Andromeda Council, the chief medical officer, and their spiritual leader, who is in fact the star ambassador to the Native American people west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Yep. And they said, and this bears worth repeating, they said, we want to reassure you. More important, most of all, we want to ease your hearts and minds. Please know your transition into fourth dimensional Earth life will be very, very easy, my friends. Very easy. Quote unquote. There are a lot of people that have expressed concern about this change, and they're concerned about humanity's emotional state, their mental state, their spiritual state. So they wanted to say this out loud so that everybody would have the advantage of hearing it out loud. The transition itself is going to be very easy, smooth, seamless, painless, whatever word you want to use, and again, no death involved. Now, here's the mechanics. The experience will be a simple transformation of cellular structure from a slower, more dense, heavier, existing 3D vibratory rate that we have today to a higher, faster 4D vibratory rate. We'll have a body that is taller, literally lighter in terms of mass, weight, and density, and lighter in terms of being infused with light. Now keep in mind, our body's molecular cellular structure will change. Think crystal-based molecules. Our 4D bodies, the cellular structure of our 4D bodies, will be based on crystalline molecules. Our 3D cell walls will transmute into being crystalline based. Now, at the center of each cell, it will be full of light. So our new 4D bodies will actually be very translucent. For adults that choose to remain on Earth during this time of transformation, we'll all pretty much look approximately in the 32 to 35 age range.
Yeah, so that as we transition, those who transition will look about 32 to 35?
For the general population, yes.
Yeah,
yep.
So
yep.
People like me who are pre-boomer, I'm a pre-boomer, I'm from the silent generation, I get like a real deal here. I get to be like, Mr. Madison Avenue ad, who's that guy in the perfume ad type?
Yeah. You get,
is that
I remember, it wasn't that long ago, but I certainly remember what it was like to be in my 30s, and it was probably the height of at least my physical capabilities.
Right.
Now, as an older man, we're close to the same age range. I'm a far more balanced spiritual person, social person, intellectual person. I have the years of wisdom. But yeah, to be in your 30s physically, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. They continue to say that in terms of height, as a comparison, if today the average male is, 5'10", 5'11", the fourth dimensional equivalent of the average male, when we become fourth dimensional beings, will be about 7 feet tall.
God, so our clothes are not going to fit.
No. But that's another conversation altogether.
Okay.
Here's another average. An average 5'5", 5'6", 3D Earth woman will likely be about 6'2", living a fourth dimensional life.
So men are 7 feet tall, women are about 6'2".
Yeah, 6'2", right. And of course, depending on the height of the person, it'll up or down a little bit. But an average Earth man will weigh, in Earth terms, about a tenth. So we're going to be, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 17 pounds,
10 to
pounds.
15 pounds would be our weight.
Yeah. And that's because of the structure of our molecules, our cells. They are going to be crystalline based, not carbon based. So that's the whole purpose for this radical reduction in weight, is that we're going to have a completely different cellular structure. And qualification, I'm not a scientist. I'm simply repeating to you guys almost verbatim what they've told me.
Right.
Women comparatively will be like 5 to 8 pounds or 4 to 7 pounds.
Right.
That's just
5 to 7 pound women.
Yeah, taller, lighter, but
my dog now weighs, which is this little Papillon, weighs about 5 to 7 pounds.
Yeah, right. Well, he's going to get a lot lighter as well. In terms of overall health, our 4D Earth bodies will be very healthy, literally full of light, because Earth-type 3D diseases will all be literally eradicated. So we're going to be the paragons of health.
And death shall have no dominion. Now, I just want to come in here.
Very true.
And not, this requires no response, but just an editorial comment. This is wonderful news. This is very congruent with prophecy, with science, with all of the dimensional shift literature that one can hear throughout the internet. And I just want to say that I do not have any way of verifying that this is what the 4D is going to be like. I'm just saying, I myself. And so you viewers who are listening, you're going to have to take responsibility, personal responsibility for this information.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have no way yet of verifying that this is what fourth dimensional life will be like.
Right. Yeah, good. That's all. I don't want to belabor this, but I know that from YouTube comments, people tend to be all over the park.
I would, just as a brief comment, and this is a good time to say this out loud and very slowly.
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone and everyone. You're listening, so you're interested. But I would encourage everyone to do your own research as much and as deep or as topical as you like. Don't take my word as gospel. Take it as this is an Earth person who's having experience with fourth dimensional beings. This is what they're telling him. Now, they've always been very open with me, always very consistent in their answers. So I happen to trust them. But yeah, this is unverified information.
Now, picking it up with that phrase, and death shall have no dominion. I mean, people who have been steeped in the Bible, there's scriptural reference there. It's throughout many of the sacred texts. It's in the prophetic literature. And also, it looks like it's part of our evolution. So, does the Andromeda Council let you know about death? Physical death? How long will our lives be in 4D, on the 4D Earth?
Okay. Valid question. And before I answer the question, I'm going to provide one qualifying statement. I myself have done no research on this topic. Alfred, you just cited, prophets and Bible and the Quran and all sorts of different religious. I've never done any in-depth research in any of these, if you will, entities or organizations and their views. About the only view that I'm familiar with two. I'm familiar with the Christian view that I was raised with, and I'm quite familiar with, I don't know what title to call it, but an Eastern or an Oriental orientation, which is that there's reincarnation. As a universal concept, I'm familiar with that. That's as much as I know in detail. Now, I'll go ahead and answer the question telling you guys what they told me. And you'll like this. It's a really good answer. Typically, as you currently measure time on Earth, human beings living a 4D life will spend a minimum of about 5,000 years to a maximum of about 10,000 years living a fourth dimensional life. Now, also understand there are 12 octaves or 12 levels of awareness and learning on each dimension, including the fourth dimension. So there's a lot of time, wrong word to use, but there's a lot to experience.
Right.
Please keep in mind, when I use these numbers as reference point, they're giving me the best approximation they can based on how we measure time today, which is going to change completely, and I'm not going to go there in this conversation, but how we measure time today will absolutely change once Earth becomes a completely 4D planet. Watching time, measuring time, experiencing time, this will all go away. As a matter of fact, they've said time is a 3D and gravitational construct. It doesn't exist in the fourth dimension or the dimensions above. And all of this is planned to go into effect by basically January 1, 2014. And they've said, you're going to live very, very long lives before you move on to the fifth dimension.
Now, when you say move on, what does that mean?
Okay. Move on is actually a literal expression. This is also a good answer because moving on doesn't mean death. Moving on is literal. It means going from one place, one kind of existence to another. Now, keep in mind, we're not experiencing time, and people living a fourth dimensional life do not die. So, a 4D person, when they get to the point when they are somewhere between 6,000 to 10,000 years old, maybe somewhere like between 70 to 80 of Earth life, I don't know, but 6,000, 10,000 years old, when they feel they've learned enough and contributed enough to society, when the moment is right for them, they can simply choose to move on and to transition to the fifth dimension, which is a slightly higher frequency of vibratory awareness. And so we'll get a new set of challenges, a new set of learning experiences. It's simply a transition, a transition from one vibration and levels of awareness to another vibration and level of awareness. But there's not that much of a distance between the two. They're actually very, very close.
So really, the transition that we may be experiencing now from 3D to 4D is kind of the birth. We're sort of being birthed into the light being multidimensional reality, going from 3D to 4D. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's a really good way to say it. That's a really good way to say it. Our bodies transition from being carbon-based, opaque, and dense to being molecular and cellular constructs of crystalline. And yes, they showed me that there'll be light in the center of each molecule, each part of our DNA. We're going to be full of light, so we're going to be very translucent. Yeah, birth is a good way to say it. Sure, certainly. Much like a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. We'll be the butterflies.
Okay.
And 30 to 35-year-old looking butterflies. So we're going to be in good shape.
Now, these are capabilities that everybody has?
I am certainly aware of a whole number of capabilities, and that takes probably a lot longer than we have in this one interview to get into.
No, right, yeah.
But yeah, certainly the capabilities of being a fourth dimensional person are pretty amazing compared to being a third dimensional. So, next time we get together and talk, we can certainly dive into this.
Yeah. Now, once again, when you're having fun, time just flies. So we've come to the end of this segment, but I have a question, and maybe I'm speaking on behalf of X percentage of the listening audience. If January 1st, 2014 comes about, and we all look around, and it's still the 3D world, how does that affect the integrity and veracity of the information that you're communicating as coming from the reported Andromeda Council? Does that mean that it's like, well, if they didn't land, then there's, don't hold me to the dates? I guess that's what I'm kind of coming to.
Sure. Boy, there are multiplicity of answers to this question, but I'll take them one piece at a time. As to them landing, they have promised to land. It's part of the whole process of our own transformation.
Okay.
They've promised to land, and they've promised to have this gentle contact and reacquainting themselves with us, their long lost grandchildren, if you will. And I need to qualify the rest of the questions by saying they've always been very open, very patient, very considerate in terms of me asking a whole realm of questions. And I keep digging deeper and deeper and asking more and more questions. So they've never once gotten abrupt or impatient with me during the process of asking questions. They've always been open with every one of their answers. They've also indicated the kinds of changes that we're likely to see along the way. And they've indicated that some of these changes are happening right now. I think last time I used the metaphor of cosmic chicken soup. Well, if people are just slightly even paying attention, they'll notice that there are a greater frequency of earthquakes, There's a whole bunch of volcanic action. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that's happening to the planet and the solar system, including the sun, that indicates there is change going on right now. And in addition, our own scientists have said, astrophysicists for that matter, have said that we are moving toward an area of space called a galactic or torsion energy wave. Now, our scientists may be using different words than the people in space who call it a fourth dimension, but these things are all happening. So, given the fact that time is not fixed in space like it is down here, I think my summary is that these changes are going to continue to happen, and we are evolving, and we're going to continue to evolve. Everything that I've heard from them tells me that. Whether it's January 1st or January 7th or 8th or the 14th, I think that everything is going to continue to change, and that we will do like everything else on this planet. We're going to evolve.
Right.
It's simply about evolution. It's about evolution.
What I'm asking is this: is that if this change and this process, which you're describing, which is congruent with a lot of material, other material from other sources.
Yeah, but I don't know that.
But wait. No.
Yeah.
Let me finish my question.
Sure.
Some of the sources say, look, it's going to take 200 years. It's not going to take 2 years. It's going to take 200 years to transition into 4D. And some is very much congruent with what you say. It's going to take 2 years. Now, the way that I look at this is that I'm just very open, is that the core of the process is that of transformation through dimensional shift.
Right.
Whether it happens in these 2 years of 2011 to 2014, or it happens over a 10-year process through 2025, or it happens through a 200-year process to 2213, all of these are models that have come through interdimensional. And I'm just saying that I would urge listeners to just be open to, in terms of timing and how exactly it happens, we don't know, and it may very well happen this way. But if it doesn't happen this way, it doesn't invalidate the concept, the reality of transformation through dimensional shift. I guess that's the point that I'm...
Sure. I think that I would have to agree with you, at least on this one salient point, which is we and this planet are evolving, the solar system is evolving. As I've said before, I'm not a prophet, nor would I ever consider to put myself in that box. But I believe that we'll continue to evolve.
Yeah. Now
that's and how long it takes. How long it takes is how long it will take.
Yeah. There's a lot of scientific data that supports 3D scientific data supports what your Andromeda Council sources are saying. And I'm just a little more than halfway through a book by researcher David Wilcock, the source field investigations, where he states that we're in this 65 million year cycle where evolution happens this way. There's a 65 million year cycle where evolution happens this way. And there are all sorts of influences and experiments that show how we can go from 3D to 4D in between 2011 to 2013. And that's very rigorous research. So I just want to say that there's a lot of congruency between what they are saying and what science has been finding out, and is reported in this remarkable book, in my humble opinion. So there is support for this view.
Well, I'm happy to hear that there's congruency. I will. The scientists are scientists, and they're good at what they do, especially the guys that are at the leading edge. So I'll certainly let them continue to learn what they learn, and we can live, comparatively, we can live this experience that we're going through of evolution. And whatever happens, we're going to be okay. We're certainly a hardy, robust race, and boy, we've gotten up many times when we've been challenged. So I think we're going to get through this evolution just fine.
Now, what we'd like to do is to invite you back for a special program to talk to us about the birds and the bees. That is, the facts of life as a fourth dimensional human. And we hope that you can join us.
Great, I look forward to it. Thanks, Alfred.
Yeah, we've come to this to the end of this segment, and we've been with Tolec, who is the Earth human representative of the Andromeda Council, a reported galactic governance council composed of star systems, including our own Milky Way Galactic Federation. Are there any final words that you'd like to leave our listeners with, including how they can get in touch with you and with the material from the Andromeda Council?
Certainly. There's a new 5th page on the Andromeda Council website that I've created just over the past week and a half or so, and it's called Frequently Asked Questions.
Good.
And so there will be many of the questions that come in. You will find the questions and the answers on that Frequently Asked Questions page. It will evolve every single week. I'll be updating it every week as new questions come in, so feel free to go there as frequently as you'd like to, but certainly at least once a week. And the website is www.andromedacouncil.com.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you once again very much. And, we just want to thank you for your labor that you're undertaking, in essence, as a volunteer, because you have a very rigorous day job and you're very successful at it. But this kind of work that you're undertaking as a volunteer for the benefit of mankind, where you've had these experiences and you're communicating to the larger public through EXOPOLITICS TV and through other avenues what you're learning. So we want to express our appreciation to you for this general, I would call it a labor of love that you're undertaking now.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. I'm happy to do it. In many ways, you're simply getting the rigorous standards that I apply to myself in my day-to-day business life that I apply to this work. So I tend to be a pain in the butt with them. I ask them a lot of questions, and I ask them to qualify their answers 3 and 4 times. So, all I have is my integrity, and I'm really concerned about bringing the highest level of integrity that I can to these answers. So thanks for recognizing it. I appreciate it.
Sure. Well, until our next conversation. Thank you. This has been Alfred Webre, and we've been with Tolec, a representative of the Andromeda Council. May you have a wonderful day.